Welcome to Mrigashira, a podcast that communicates with communicators. This podcast is a tribute to our fantastic fellow professionals, colleagues, and friends. I'm Charu Raizada, and this podcast is brought to you in association with Digitales. Today's discussions hover around a topic which, if brand custodians had their way a few years back, would probably have shaken their head in exasperation. I'm talking about digital marketing, which today is considered the most powerful way of marketing and certainly a future shaper. Each business is a victim of digital Darwinism and evolving consumer behavior, and this makes the job of a digital marketer challenging. We caught up with Anil Nair, CEO of VMLY&R India, to understand the upcoming trends in digital marketing. Stay with us on Mrigashira. Hi Anil, thank you for making the time to join us on Mrigashira.
Hi Charu. Thank you again for this invitation. Interesting set of questions and our pre-discussion. So looking forward to it myself.
One good thing with the pandemic has been that the conversations are no more around the need for businesses and brands to integrate digital, right? It's now like a given. But we all know how rapidly technology changes, and we have to continuously rethink and adopt new solutions. My first question to you, and this perhaps could be the topmost question in every business or brand's mind today: how can we reimagine the customer experience using digital?
Fantastic question, and you kind of hit the nail right in the head. When we were growing up, life was much simpler, and there were fewer brands, fewer channels, and fewer opportunities, for customer experience to come to the fore. Not just that, it was a seller's market at that sense. You had maybe 5 cars, you had 10 soaps, you had maybe a few channels, X number of distribution outlets and retail outlets. The world is completely been turned on its head today. Not only do you have like a huge burgeoning number of retail options that you have, from high street to kirana stores to mom and pop stores to destination retail places, you have an equal or if not more number of digital channels as well. Right from D2C options that brands have to marketplaces of all different shapes and sizes, horizontals, verticals. And you also have then the entire, the same thing being available on various social media channels. And that just kind of explodes the options and the touch points that brands have to maintain today, to keep up with the category and to keep up with competition brands. And that brings to fore the most important question of customer experience. So customer experience has 2 parts to it. One, how do we ensure that, we give the customer the maximum convenience? Because the customer has multiple other things to do, and your brand or your offering is only one part of his or her entire life, and you want that to happen as smoothly as possible, which is quick in, quick out, with least tension, maximum ease and efficiency, and of course customer delight. So that's one part to it. The second part of customer experience is it's a state of constant beta, which is you have a great customer experience and your competition has improved their customer experience. So you got to keep playing catch up, and technology keeps changing, new channels emerge. And therefore, unlike earlier where there was a big status quo when it came to marketing, nothing changed for decades on end. Today, every week, every month, every year, there is something new being thrown up, and you constantly have, one, to be in a state of constant beta, and 2, you have to be alert and on the edge. And the third thing is, just because somebody else has an X customer experience does not mean that your brand needs to have it. What your brand needs is customer experience that's aligned to your brand and its intrinsic purpose. And that again is, it's a very, very tricky space, because if you don't do that, then you'll constantly be chasing your tail and somebody else's tail and investing time, money and cost. So the entire this dimension of customer experience is extremely fascinating.
You said it very rightly that customer has multiple things to do, and that means the role of the communicator needs to be completely agile. This actually brings me to my question of how have you been inspiring some of the campaigns you've been working very closely with. So tell us 2 of your most inspiring campaigns, futuristic yet iconic.
I wouldn't call them just campaigns, Charu, because they're more than campaigns. It just so happens that it's something that communicates between the brand and its customers. But it's not like the campaigns of yore. And I want to give you two examples of recent work, but which was highly impactful. We all know what the pandemic has done for, obviously it's kind of taken a huge toll on our society and on our lives and the way, we've kind of lived. But the pandemic the silver lining in the pandemic cloud has been, it's really accelerated new technologies and innovations in the world of marketing and commerce, and which I think is going to hold companies in good stead, because it's literally forced them to make these investments. It's literally quadrupled, the kind of budgets and telescoped companies into the future.
Right.
And two examples that come to my mind, and these are mostly pandemic examples, one is on Colgate, where the pandemic had just started and we were all driven indoors, and this was during that entire process where there was a complete lockdown on people and movement and stuff like that, the first lockdown, and we were just about learning how to do this entire advertising process from home. And during one of our discussions with our clients, we realized that there was a huge pressing problem, which was the problem of people getting access to dentists. And though dentistry does not come in the hierarchy of medical emergencies, and therefore the government had allowed people to kind of travel in the case of medical emergency, I think dentistry didn't fall into that ambit, and because of that, and we also know how bad an oral care problem can be, the pain and the suffering involved. And we as VMLY&R and as Colgate, we felt that we needed to do something about it as India's leading oral care brand. And that was when the client and us immediately sprung into action, and literally within a period of a month, we had put together a platform which allowed patients to or people with oral care problems to access dentists. It was called Dentist for Me, and we had to move with real speed on this one, put the technology. So it was a platform where and it was a time when even dentists didn't have much to do, because they were stuck at home. They couldn't consult or meet their patients, and therefore this was a huge service during the pandemic. We met with a lot of success. It was a telemedicine platform where people could access using voice, using video, and using technology mainly, and where the algorithm allowed patients and dentists to kind of find mutual times and consult. So this was really, really interesting, rewarding for the customers, rewarding for Colgate family, rewarding for us as an agency for free. And it continues even today, now that the lockdowns are slowly lifting. The second one was pre-pandemic. TikTok was still in town, and TikTok was really doing well. And we have a brand, Parachute from Marico, very, very like a leading and respected brand. We want to do something with the younger franchise and get onto this entire TikTok, phenomenon. And what we did there was, we said, a big part of brand Parachute was the entire ritual of Champi, which is the age-old Indian ritual of a head massage. It's more than a head massage. In India, it's also huge in this entire family zeitgeist of you have grandmothers doing it with their children, grandchildren, and whatnot. So we said, how do we contemporize this and marry it with a channel like TikTok? And we figured out that if we were to contemporize this entire Champi, and TikTok is all about music and activity and dance. So we figured out, we worked with musicians and created an entire, like a playlist of different innovative ways to do the age-old Champi. And we put it up on TikTok, and we had no idea how that would kind of go and whether people would adopt it. And lo and behold, it became one of the biggest phenomena on TikTok, where a huge generation of people who did not have the Champi, the culture or any kind of connection with Champi, literally got introduced to this in a very, very young, fun and contemporary way both of these for me are interesting ways in which traditional brands, strong brands, can still, without losing their core values, can still leverage new mediums.
Two fantastic examples. The first one more about how you created a program or a campaign or which helped solve a consumer problem, and second, the parachute one is more about how you took that whole brand experience with the consumer to the next level, right? So I think just straightforward advertising gone are the days, and it's really about new technology. And this brings me to the question about artificial intelligence, which is believed to be the biggest opportunity for companies, industries, nations over the next few decades. How can we communicators work with brands to use AI beyond just chatbots and data analytics?
Yeah, very interesting question again, Charu. Before we answer that, we need to understand what is AI and what's the power of AI in simplistic terms. Again, I want to hark back to a time when things were not as complex. Numbers weren't that huge. Things were more open and shut. There weren't too many opportunities for interactivity. Today, if we were to, just do a simple permutation combination of 6 billion human beings, maybe 10,000 different channels with 400 different ways in which you can engage with the channel, the numbers are mind-boggling, and it goes beyond the realm of human beings to be able to plan complexity like this. And that is where AI steps in. So AI literally is like computing brain, can be programmed, and you create a set of scenarios, obviously with the power and speed of computing prowess. You're literally able to, fast forward or put on steroids what processes or reactions that, would have happened if human beings were still controlling it. And if you have to add ML to AI, which is machine learning, then you're literally, exponentially again increasing, and you are able to processify cases or sectors where it's really helped is lots of interesting cases. So in the financial sector, where millions and millions of transactions have to happen, and many of them are regular average. For example, it could be in banking, it could be in stock picking, it could be in for example, in the stock market, where the prices are like literally fluctuating every day across thousands of different stocks. It's virtually impossible, even if you're like the cleverest human being, to be able to catch every trend, predict every potential outcome, but the machine can do it faster and better. I'm not saying only machines can do it. Obviously, you need a great mix of human intuitiveness, intelligence, because the human beings are the ones that put the algorithm in. But that combination of man and machine then makes it really interesting. Another sector where there is huge potential for it is healthcare. Dentist for me is one example, but there are many, many different complex ways that AI is being used for healthcare, especially, for example, in areas where it's impossible to see test reports, clinical reports, X-rays, CT scans. Machines can kind of pick up abnormalities, trends, and literally, help save lives. Crop science, pharma clinical trials, and these are the areas where I feel that AI is really kicking in, is already being used, has met with a lot of success. But again, not to say that AI cannot be used in regular marketing as well. Today, and especially in commerce, where you can, there are millions and millions of purchases happening, to be able to kind of understand consumers, understand finer nuances. Like, for example, even in your own family, Charu, if you have 5 or 6 members in your family, all of them behave differently. Though they belong to the same family and maybe have the same behavioral traits, but then there are these micro behaviors that can be captured not by a media plan, not by something like a people meter, but by AI algorithms, which can literally say, hey, there are, and we call it the customer of one, which is how do we, if there are 6 billion human beings on this planet, then there are literally 6 billion customer cohorts. I don't think anybody's ever reached there, but that should be the ultimate aim. Is how do we kind of treat each customer as a customer of one.
So if you could see into the future, and I will not take you very far, say 2030, what new unimaginable things you see with the power of digital?
2030 may not seem very far, but 2030 from a relative lens can be very far. And why I say that is the world is divided. We go back and look into history. Maybe last 3 or 4 decades were the final saga in the Industrial Revolution, which started maybe 300-400 years ago. And it brings me to a very interesting story that I heard. It's not a story, it's real. When cars were first invented, there was a piece of legislation called the Red Flag Act, which basically meant that if you bought a car, you also had to have a person with a red flag running in front of your car, and that to basically not allow the car run faster than a horse carriage or people walking, and basically because that was the big prevalent technology of that time. And after that, everything boomed: factories, automobiles, transport, airlines. And we thought that was everything. We said, wow, we've seen everything that development has to offer. And the last 3 or 4 decades were the last part of that development. Now I believe it's the next phase, the digital economy and the digital revolution that has kind of started. And we are in the first, right now we are lucky to be in the first 15-20 years of this digital revolution piece that's going on. And it's like those early days of the Red Flag Act where you will, and I believe the next 10 years is going to see like humongous changes till, things settle down. I see a lot of automation, coming into conflict with manual human labor, and then it's going to find its spot in terms of a balance between human beings, manual labor, and automation. That is one space where I see humongous changes happening. The other piece I see is in the entire shared computing space, which is blockchain, for example, is a fantastic example of that.
Right. Traditionally,
we've all been wall gardens, and you still see large wall gardens today in existence. But I don't think that's feasible. These wall gardens will need to start collaborating with each other if humankind needs to kind of move to the next level, because what may still look very complex for us is we won't be able to get economies of scale, and that can only happen through shared computing, through sharing of data, sharing of insight, sharing of resources. So that's the second space that I see a lot of change in. The third space I see a lot of change in is the entire, we already spoke about it, which is very, very deep textural understanding, which is marketing at the speed of thought. Today marketing as a function is still outside of us. It's something that you learn, and then you take time, and then you create some creatives, and then you produce it, and then you send it out to the customer, and then you wait for the results. And this entire process can take anywhere from a week to 2 weeks to, while I see in the future, there's going to be a lot of intuitive marketing, which is, for example, Anil or Charu thinks and Anil or Charu gets.
Wow.
That's, and it's possible. I think the basis of this is getting constructed, and you will see us tending more and more towards it. And last but not the least, I feel it's going to be everywhere media. It's not going to be that you're going to have to drive past a hoarding to see a hoarding, or you're going to sit in front of your television. Anything can be media. Your desk can be a media. Your wall in front of you can be a media. Just air can be a media, because your holographic projective technologies, screens, mobile phones may not be square and rectangular anymore. iPads may not be stiff. Television screens won't be these big blocky pieces that you put on it. And you'd say until 2030, I think that's too close. I don't see, but you'd be surprised, because I think we are hurtling towards some of these, and you will see more and more of those technologies, even if those technologies take another 10-15 years to perfect. But I see in the next 10 years a lot of them landing around us.
So that's certainly mind-boggling and sounds really exciting. In fact, during our lifetime so far, we've seen so much change. We've come a long way from the time we were growing up to studying to now. We've come a long way. Thank you so much for joining us, Anil. Pleasure speaking with you.
Charu, absolute pleasure, and wish you all the best.
Hope you enjoy listening to Mrigashira, a podcast for communication folks. Do share your suggestions and feedback on Mrigashira at digitales.co.in. Have a great week ahead and do not forget to tune in next week. Adios.